Hey there, friends. My name is Dave Schramm, or Dr. Dave, as I'm known here at Utah State University. I'm a professor and extension specialist here at USU, so I provide a lot of research and programming based on parenting, relationships, personal well-being, happiness, that kind of thing. But today I'm super excited to be talking a little bit about positivity and the impact of positivity on our bodies and brains and how it helps us battle stress. So I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to get rid of myself down here, and we are going to jump right into a little bit of overview. First off, I will discuss some benefits of a positive brain and what positivity and happiness actually do to our brains and our bodies. We're going to review a stress model that I talked about before in a previous video. Then we'll get into a little bit about brain wiring and rewiring, what happens especially when we're born and how we can actually rewire our brain. Then we'll spend a bulk of the time on some happy hacks for positivity. So these are science-backed, research-based happy hacks, some simple things that you can do to improve positivity in your life, which then helps us to manage the stress and the challenges that you're experiencing. And I'll conclude with some of Dave's faves, some of my favorite books on positivity, happiness, gratitude. So let's jump right in. First, what is a hack? A hack is a creative solution to a problem or challenge. So let me show you some of these. I love this one, right? If you have twins, how do you tell them apart? Well, just shave their heads. You got number 1 and number 2. Brilliant, right? What about this one? Now, especially with the pandemic that we've had, now what do? When you're rationing toilet paper, simple, just put a little mark, and this is where you get to pull it down to, and then you rip it off, and then you're not wasting so much toilet paper. Great little hack. What about this one? This one, where was this one, right? When my kids were younger, just sit on the porch, grab a drink, and just pull the rope back and forth to get your child to swing. What about this one? Set your child, your baby in front of a washing machine for a whole new world of entertainment. This is brilliant. So pull out, just have this paper with you wherever you go, that out of order sign. And then whenever you see these rascals, these machines, you just slap it on there and you are, you don't have to come up with an excuse. Say, darn it, it's out of order. So sorry. And this is perhaps my favorites. Edamame. How many kids just love frozen edamame? None of them. No one does. So what do? You put your treats inside the edamame and you put it in the freezer or fridge, and they'll never find them. They'll go untouched. Now, why would I start a presentation like that? Research shows actually when our brains are positive and we smile, we're happy, and things are going well, then we are 3 times more creative, up to 31% more productive, and energy rises, intelligence rises. All of this increases. Why? Because of our brains. They're positive and they're happy. So we perform so much better than a negative or a neutral brain, and study after study has continued to show that. So let's review this model, and we'll come back to that positivity and happy brain. Typically, the previous models have said that an event causes stress. So A equals X, but in the past, we've reviewed in another video the importance of considering B, C, and D. B meaning the resources, the things that we have access to. C, the meaning or our perspective or how we perceive that stressor, that event. And then I even talk about personality, which I added to this model because I think our personality does mesh into there. So what does positivity have to do with all this? Now, I like to think of positivity right here, right at the beginning. So if we can flood our lives and our brains with positivity, now it doesn't remove the stress, but what it does is it helps our brains. It opens up literally our brains. It's called this broaden and build theory that Barbara Fredrickson, she came up with it. We literally are able to see more solutions to our challenges, right? Because creativity increases, and all of this increases when we're positive. So we're able to handle and manage the stressors in more helpful ways. So it's not only before the stressor. So if we're living a positive, happy life, when stress does happen to us, we can manage it in helpful and healthy ways. But also we can see that we can make more meaning. We can have access to our resources because our brains are more open to the meaning. We can see it from a different perspective, and it's a great resource. So that's really the perspective of what we're doing here with positivity on our brain and the challenges that we receive. I want to review positivity pyramid. So this is primarily family-based, but this can apply to nearly any situation. Up at the top of this is correction. Now, this can be in the classroom, this can be at home, this can be at work. We're always going to be offering correction to others in different types of scenarios. But underneath, regardless of the type of correction, will always depend on prior teaching. We do a better job of teaching and we'll do less correction, or it'll be a natural extension of our teaching. But underneath teaching, regardless of how our method of correction and teaching, will always depend upon our relationship. In this context, is parent-child relationship, but it could be teacher-student relationship. It could be a boss, worker relationship. So just insert whatever it is there in that relationship. But underneath that relationship, as far as a family context, we're talking about couple relationship. If that is going well, then the parent-child relationship is much more likely to go well. But underneath this couple relationship, this is what we're talking about, and I want to focus on, is the positive, happy, flourishing individual. As a person, we're much more likely to do well in our relationships, at home, at work, and at school, if we're thriving and we're managing the stresses and we have a positivity in our lives. So that's the framework which we'll be talking about today. Referring back, that's really the foundation of all of the relationships, is our own positivity and happiness. So what contributes to positivity? About half, some research shows, some has kind of looked at different things, but about half of the difference in our positivity is related to our genetic makeup, our parents. So we have this set point of sorts. So that leaves another 50%. So about 10%, some scholars suggest, are due to our outside circumstances, our money, our house, our marriage, relationships, even our work, our job. It counts only for about 10%. So what does that leave? This is the good news, and this is what I'm going to be focusing on, is this 40%, is this intentional activity, these thoughts and actions that we get to choose, that we have control over. So it's this illusion of control. I like this. The only thing you have control over are your actions and your attitude. Everything else is beyond your control. A lot of the stress is beyond your control. You don't have control on a lot of things that are happening, going on around you, but you do have control of your attitude, your actions, and your thoughts. So with that in mind, let's take a look at why. Why do we react instead of respond to the stress the way we do? But we're born with about 86 billion brain cells, neurons, when we are born. And it's like let's pretend that this is a little baby's brain. They're born with this pile of dirt, and then it starts to rain. Now, if rain comes down on that dirt, eventually it's going to follow the path of least resistance, and it's going to start creating puddles down at the bottom. But it's going to create pathways with this rain as it descends. So it's going to look like this, right? On the left, you see that. That's what water does. It starts to erode. It creates these pathways. The same thing is actually taking place inside of our brains. And at the peak of this, about 1 million neural connections per second between the ages of from birth to 3, even birth to 5. So many new neural connections are happening inside of our brains. So we're wiring, and whether we're born and raised in a stressful environment, then our brains are wired one way. If it's a nurturing environment, there's lots of love and positivity and responsive parenting or caregiving that's happening, then our brain is going to wire one way. Now, we can't go back and change the past, but we actually can learn to rewire the brain for more positivity. And that can actually rewire the brain with positive experiences. And in the present can actually rewire some of what's happened in the past. So now we're not only talking about managing stress, what to do when stress already happens, but we're looking even before stress, preventing stress. And so what we have control over is that we can take in more positivity. We can look for it. But again, remember the negativity bias. We're 5 times as likely to notice and dwell on the negative that's going on. But here, if we take in more positivity, even 5 to 15 seconds is all it takes to create a new neural connection. So we take in more positivity, we can create positive experiences in the present, with those around us, our family members or students or those that we are that are around us. We create those, or we can recall them in the past. So you can actually sit down, maybe at the end of the day, we have happy thoughts in the Shram fam. We sit down at the dinner table or right before bed and we name one thing that made us happy that day and why that happened. And we share the positive and the good things that are happening in our lives, and then stay with it for a minute. Absorb it, appreciate that positive. Maybe you're going on a walk and you notice the flowers or the smells or the sounds, and just pause and take it in and appreciate it. And then share it. Write it down, share it in your families, write it down in a journal. My favorite is the 5-minute journal. It's a great app that you can get to jot down the positive, the happy things that are going on. So write those things down. What does it do? It activates a positive mental state, and then it installs it in the brain. A great book, I recommend this one, Hardwiring Happiness by Rick Hanson. He says, when you tilt toward the good, you're not denying or resisting the bad. You're simply acknowledging, enjoying, and using the good. You're aware of the whole truth. So that's really what we're talking about. It's of course, the negative is going to happen and the stress is going to happen. But when you have a positive mental state, again, you can attack that stress. You can have more creative ways of managing the stress in happy and healthy ways when you're in a positive mental state. So when the brain is positive, we took a look at some of these. These are some of the positive things. Studies have shown over and over that it performs better. A positive brain performs better than a negative, neutral, or stressed out brain. What does it do? It builds a sense of community. It lowers defenses. It brings people together and increases human connections. A positive brain also leads to intelligence. We talked about this earlier. Creativity, energy rises. It's up to 31% more productive. And positivity and happiness turns that dopamine is that neurotransmitter, that chemical that actually turns on all the learning centers in the brain. It's that woohoo feeling that we get when we are happy, positive, laughing around other people. It allows us to adapt to the world and see different perspectives, including viewing things as less stressful than a negative or a neutral brain. So here are some happy hacks. These are some things, some simple little things. 2 minutes a day, 21 days to rewire your brain for more positivity. Now choose maybe one or two of these, but really, truly do it, and do it for 21 days, and you'll rewire your brain. That negativity, that patterns of that we were born with and wired, it can actually learn to rewire the brain. So here they are, 3 gratitudes. I love this one. What it does is it trains the brain to scan for positives. And so that could be as simple as expressing gratitude. Here's a little challenge. It's called text 2 before 10. So text 2 people or email them or call them 2 people before 10 a.m. Even do it for a week and just express gratitude. You know, go through your family, friends, neighbors, loved ones, your Facebook or social media contacts, and express sincere appreciation and gratitude and love for people. Watch what happens. This one is amazing. So gratitude is a big one. 3 good things. Write down the 3 good things that go well that day and why those things happen. Again, it trains the brain to scan for the positive things, jot them down, and when you jot them down, it cements it in your brain longer. So write down the good things and it cements it in your brain. You'll be able to remember those things longer. Again, the 5-minute journal, check out that app because it includes 3 gratitudes in the morning, the good things that happen, the amazing things that pop up at nighttime for you to write about. 3 extra smiles. Everybody smile. Take a minute to smile. Okay. That's totally fake. I can see you, right? No. That 3 extra smiles. It's the 10-5 rule. The 10-5 rule is simply this. When you're within 10 feet of somebody, smile. When you're within 5 feet of somebody, ask them how they're doing, right? Ask, hey, how are you doing? But smile within 10 feet and talk to them. Ask them how they're doing at 5 feet. Try that in your meetings with anyone at the store. Smile and ask how people are doing. So smiles actually release dopamine and improves mood. It's contagious. But guess what? Only about 1/3 of adults are smiling more than 20 times per day. Think about that. Are you smiling? How often do you think you smile in a given day? Only about 1/3 smile 20 times per day. About 14% of us adults smile less than 5. That's pretty sad. Children, guess how many times children smile? Up to 400 times per day that they're smiling. What's the number one killer or the crusher of children's happiness? You are right. As teachers and parents, that's the one where we tend to get after these kiddos. But children, if we can learn to smile more, simply smiling and learning to laugh, the dopamine, the positivity, the happiness, it helps us deal with stress. Journaling about one positive experience the last 24 hours. Try this one as well. You can do it in the 5-minute journal, or if you keep a journal in another way, that's totally great. It allows the brain again to relive it, and it cements it in the brain. And actually, studies have shown that it lowers levels of worry and stress and pessimism. Exercise. We know these things. These are simple little hacks, but science has shown that when we exercise, it can decrease anxiety and worry by up to 20%. Simply by getting out, get up in the morning, exercise, do something that gets the heart rate moving, gets your body moving, engages the brain, and it teaches your brain that your behavior matters. So here's some more. Find flow. Flow is that activity where you almost lose track of time. You're so immersed in it that almost nothing else seems to matter. And it can be puzzles, it can be playing the piano, it can be actually cooking, working on an assignment, something that engages all 40 bits of your brain in a task where you're so focused on something you almost lose track of time. Those states are actually good because we're not worried and thinking about stress. We're actually engaging a different part of our brain in a positive and healthy way. So finding flow, find that every day. Find a little time for your flow, kind of that me time. Meditation and breathing. What this does, it allows your brain to actually slow down and focus on the task at hand. So meditation, mindfulness, breathing, one of the best things you can do when you're under stress is actually learning to slow down and breathe. Taking the deep breaths gets oxygen to the prefrontal cortex, that front part of your brain. It allows you to actually process things a lot better. So this one is huge. Studies have shown that actually you can increase the thickness of the gray matter in your brain from slowing down and taking time to meditate. So powerful one. Starting your day in a positive way. I love this one. It really sets the tone for the entire day. There's been studies that have shown that if you begin your day by watching as little as 3 minutes of negative news to start your day, then many participants in this study were 27% more likely at the end of the day to rate their day as a bad day. So start your day in a positive way, whether it's with meditation or yoga or a hot shower or reading or prayer or whatever it is. Starting your day in a positive way sets the tone for the entire day. Oh man, random acts of kindness. This is one of my favorites. Random acts of kindness will increase and improve happiness about as fast as anything I know. In fact, Martin Seligman, he's the father of positive psychology. He said, doing a kind act produces the single most reliable momentary increase in well-being of any exercise we've tested. So random acts of kindness, that one is huge. Dropping grudges, being willing to forgive, to forgo that poison that's holding you back. Forgiveness is all kinds of studies on that, showing that when we can drop grudges, let things go, then it doesn't canker us and hold us back as much. And the last one, strengthening your social connections. This one is powerful. In fact, so this was a meta-analysis done by a scholar actually at Brigham Young University, and found that here's the strongest predictors of staying alive. And it starts with clean air, not a very strong predictor. Hypertension treatment, being lean versus overweight. Exercise is a good one. That actually, other studies have shown that it should be further down to the list to the left. Cardiac rehab, the flu shot, the flu vaccine, very important. Quitting drinking, quitting smoking. Okay, what do you think the strongest 2 predictors of staying alive? How long and how well you will live in this life? Here we go. Close relationships is number 2. What's number 1? Number 1, it turns out that quitting Fortnite is actually the strongest. No, I'm just teasing. It is actually social integration. So close relationships, those family relationships, social integration, typically those other 8 hours of who you spend your life around and with, whether it's at work or the grocery store or other friends and neighbors, that's what it's talking about. Those 2 are huge. In fact, here's a great TED Talk. I encourage you to make some time to watch this one. It's by Robert Waldinger. It's called What Makes a Good Life. This is a quote from his TED Talk. He says, the clearest message that we get from this 75-year study is this: good relationships keep us happier and healthier, period. People who are more socially connected to family, to friends, to community are happier, they're physically healthier, and they live longer than people who are less well connected. And good relationships don't just protect our bodies, they protect our brains. So, what is one of the strongest things you can do when you're stressed out? Talk to other people, give a phone call, reach out, get socially connected with others, talk with someone about it, because that's one of the most healthy things and keeps us alive longer. I mentioned this when I gratitude at the beginning. In fact, my top 3 for managing stress are these: social connections, acts of kindness, random acts of kindness, doing kind things for other people, and gratitude. In fact, so David Steindl-Rast, he says, in daily life, we must see that it is not happiness that makes us grateful, but gratefulness that makes us happy. He says, gratefulness is the key to a happy life that we hold in our hands, because if we're not grateful, then no matter how much we have, we will not be happy, because we will always want to have something else or something more. So when we get stressed out, pause, take a minute, and think about what you're most grateful for, because gratitude is a big one. So I encourage you to watch this TED Talk as well. It's super. All right. So now I've been going on for about 20 minutes, and I want to ask you, have you been able to pay attention this whole time? Chances are no. In fact, research shows that our minds wander about 47% of the time when we're engaged in an activity. 47% of the time, we're thinking about something other than what we're actually doing. In fact, research shows it varies between about 67% grooming and self-care, all the way down to, in this study, about 15,000 people, making love. Okay, about 10% of the time, we're thinking about something other than what we're doing. But take a look at this: the commuting, listening, doing housework, working. I'm working. No, you're not. About 50% of the time, you're thinking about something other than what you're doing. Taking care of your kiddos. Yes. How many of you are guilty? Your child comes up, hey, look at this, mom or dad. Oh, that's great. You have no idea what they just said, right? Your minds are wandering. The reason I bring this up is that the research shows on this, in fact, a great TED Talk by Matt Killingsworth down at the bottom, you can look that one up, talks about how when our mind wander, we're not as happy. In fact, when our minds wander, we tend to think about stressful things, the negative things, the things that we need to do that we haven't done yet. And so a wandering mind is not really a healthy mind, because we tend to go toward the negative things when our minds wander. So here are 8 words for boosting positivity. So, and I came up with these 8 words, and so take them for what you want. The first one is search inward. And I think when we're managing stress, we're handling challenges, the first thing we need to do is recognize our strengths, discover your strengths. Talked about flow, getting in that state of flow, improving, growing. Here's a homework assignment. Go to viacharacter.org. viacharacter.org. Now do it with your partner, have them make them do it. Threaten your kiddos to do this, right? Teenagers, they can do this as well. What it does is you discover your strengths. It's called your signature strengths. And then I've printed mine out and I have them right here. I'm actually looking at them at the bottom of my computer screen, at one of my screens. I printed them out. And so literally I can focus on my strengths every single day. So search inward, discover your strengths, turn outward, and use your strengths to do good, to be kind. Remember, kindness and gratitude, those are 2 of the most important things you can do when you're experiencing challenges, because it's not about you. Search inward is always about you. Turning outward, never about you. Being kind is always something outward. Gratitude, always something outward. Looking upward, increasing in positivity, what we've been talking about today. Take 1 or 2 of these things and try it for 21 days. Hope, optimism, finding meaning and purpose. For some, this is spiritual or religious, looking upward. For others, it is staying optimistic and positive and saying, we will prevail, right? There are better days ahead. Finding the good and staying positive, and then press forward, not giving up or giving in, being persistent in the face of challenges and negativity. So search inward, turn outward, look upward, and press forward. Those are 8 words that I hope will be helpful. So I'm going to leave you with some of Dave's faves. So here are my favorite books, some of my favorites on positivity and happiness and gratitude. The Upward Spiral, I just added that one. That is one of my favorite all-time books on positivity and dealing with anxiety, depression, and worry. Very, very good book. I highly recommend it. Blinkist is an app that actually summarizes books into 15 minutes. to get the 15-minute version of the book. So I love it. Listen to over 200 books through Blinkist, and then I buy the ones that I really like. So this is what we're talking about: increasing positivity and happiness, which spills over into and affects how we view the stressors and challenges in our lives. I want to leave you with some motivating words from our 8-year-old daughter. Have you ever had that day when you can't get your children to bed fast enough? Well, it was one of those days several years ago, threatening, okay, give $20 bill for those who stay in their beds. And I was so stressed out. I go back to my room. Less than 5 minutes later, I hear it. The sound of a child's footsteps coming down the hall toward our bedroom door. And then I heard that noise on our door, and I yelled, "Get back to your room." And I heard footsteps race back down the hall. I opened the door, and there's a note. There's a note from our 8-year-old daughter taped to our door. And this is a picture of the actual note. She says, "Thanks a lot. I know it can be hard being a mom or dad, but you got to stick with it." Right? I think, she called me out. Here's Dr. Dave with 10 years of school and parenting and trying to do the best I can. And we blow it. We all blow it, especially with challenges and stress. We blow it. So we got to learn to forgive ourselves. And then on the back, she says, "Look on the back." And so I flip the note over and it says, "Don't worry, we still love you." So hanging in there and amidst all the challenges, increasing the positivity in your own life can help you deal with the stresses and the challenges in your lives. I encourage you for more tips and resources, visit my Facebook page, Dr. Dave USU on Facebook, or visit relationships.usu.edu for more helps. So I hope this has been helpful, and look forward to sharing more resources soon.